Japan just held their biggest music awards show ever on May 21st and 22nd in the historical city of Kyoto. The Music Awards Japan, or simply MAJ, is their attempt at creating a Japanese version of the Grammys. It was also branded as a gateway for Japanese music to reach international audiences. However, despite the high budget, big ambition, and appearances from some of the most popular international J-pop stars, the show was a mixed bag with some glaring flaws. In this video, I'm gonna cover everything you need to know about the Music Awards Japan, my thoughts on the winners in the major categories, the positive and negative aspects of the ceremony, and what needs to improve if MAJ is serious about becoming a prestigious event. So without further ado, let's get started. The Music Awards Japan is hosted by SEIPA, the same organization that brought us Matsuri 25, where Yoasobi, Ado, and Atarashii Gakko put on a show in LA. They brought together around 5,000 musicians, producers, and industry experts to decide the winners of 62 categories, both major and minor. Winners received a ruby, which is what they're calling the award. Personally, I still think they could have picked a better name, but it is what it is. The entirety of the ceremony is broadcast on YouTube, which if you're familiar with Japanese media, you would know that's a big deal. The Japanese entertainment industry is notoriously strict when it comes to copyrights and regional restrictions. So to broadcast such a massive event worldwide, it really shows how serious they are about reaching international audiences. Although apparently not enough to archive it for those who missed the live streams. The launch of MAJ came at a time when the global popularity of Japanese music is higher than ever, mainly thanks to the ever-growing anime fanbase and the rise of J-pop on social media. Artists like Yoasobi and Ado have become two of the most popular international Japanese musicians ever. Lisa and CreepyNuts became household names among the global anime community. A new generation of idols like Atarashii Gakko and XG have broken into the Western market without anime tie-ins. And singer-songwriters like Yonezu Kenshi and Fujii Kaze are hosting concerts around the world. How far J-pop has come in the past 5 to 10 years is truly astonishing. Now let's talk about the winners in the major categories. These were revealed on day 2, which was the main event of the ceremony. Fujii Kaze's Love or Serval won the Album of the Year. This was a bit of a surprise, not because it wasn't worth it. It is my favorite out of all 5 nominees, but because the album came out in 2022. It's like if Cyberpunk Edge Runners won this year's Anime of the Year. Personally, I'd pick Freerun, but you know what I mean. Even Fujii Kaze seemed surprised during his speech, saying that the album came out 3 years ago. And this brings up one of MAJ's biggest problems, their nomination system, but we'll get to that later. New Artist of the Year went to Tsuki, as expected. Banzanka was one of the biggest songs in Japan last year, and her following releases were also well received. The only issue is that Tsuki doesn't make public appearances, so she couldn't accept the award in person. But at the very least, the organizers could have asked her to pre-record a message or even write a letter for her rep to read. This felt like a lack of planning on MAJ's part. Also, the number of nominees who didn't show up is not a very good look. If SEIPA wants to establish MAJ as Japan's version of the Grammys, they must start by making sure the singers treat it like the Grammys, because pretty much all the biggest Western pop stars attend the Grammys whenever they're nominated. Next, after sweeping almost 10 awards, CreepyNuts took home Song of the Year with Bling Bang Bang Born. Again, no surprise there, it was the most popular Japanese song globally last year. Although personally, out of all the nominees, Mishideuku was my pick. Idol would have been my choice if it didn't come out in 2023. Lilac was good, but nowhere near Mrs. Green Apple's best works. While Apatsu and Bling Bang Bang Born were both absolute bangers, evidenced by their popularity, I don't really consider them Song of the Year material. Unless MAJ is more in line with the Billboard Music Awards, the AMAs, or the VMAs. And finally, the biggest award of the night, Artist of the Year, went to Mrs. Green Apple. Even though I called this in my previous video, I'm still really glad they won. Mrs. Green Apple might not be my favorite artist on the list, but they were again the most successful artist in 2024 with an album that included multiple hits, and arguably should have won Album of the Year. The rest of the nominees didn't release any albums in 2024, and even though CreepyNuts was probably a close second, thanks to Bling Bang Bang Born, Nidone, and Otonoke, I don't think they should win with only 3 singles. That being said, I was initially a bit worried that MAJ would snub Mrs. Green Apple since they're less popular internationally, and instead go with Yoasobi or CreepyNuts as a fan service for the international viewers. So it's a relief to see that MAJ didn't let their agenda affect their judgments. Let's move on to my positive and negative takeaways from the ceremony, and things MAJ should improve. First of all, every performance from start to finish is really good. The opening act, featuring multiple artists from different genres, was well planned and choreographed. Yoasobi's stage was really cool, especially since I'm a PlayStation user. but I still think they should have performed Idol, considering it's mainly what they're nominated for. I generally prefer singers to perform the songs that got them to the award shows, instead of promoting new ones. Anyway, Creepy Nuts killed it with Bling Bang Bang Born, but I'll admit I was low-key hoping they would sing Otonoke as well. Tamina brought her A-game to MAJ, as I lost count of how many songs she performed, but the show pretty much turned into a concert at one point. Her performance also somehow reminded me of Charlie XCX at the Grammys. Fujii Kaze's Michideku was good, but I'm not sure why he had this photo on the piano. It's kinda weird unless it's a callback to the music video. The hip-hop segment was meh for me, which was absolutely amazing, but the rest is a bit cringy. Ai has incredible vocal skills, but she's always come off to me a bit emotionless and just doing her best Alicia Keys impression. The message about gun violence and conflicts is nice, but it just felt inauthentic and detached to me. It's like if they're doing it for show. The headliner, Mrs. Green Apple's performance was as flashy as usual, but you can really tell why they're not as popular internationally. Their recent music style is fundamentally made for Japanese audiences. It's like a combination of J-rock and idol music. For next year, MAJ should seriously try to get Idol to perform, if she's not busy touring, because she'll surely draw a lot of viewers in. Overall, I think the pacing of the show was pretty good, with at least one performance between each main award. It would be even better if they could trim down the pointless interviews, because Japanese celebrities are programmed to answer questions based on PR manuals. So it was just a lot of empty compliments. Onto the more negative side. One thing that bugged me throughout the ceremony was how often the presenters emphasized that MAJ is a bridge between Japan and the world. Like, yeah, that's the purpose, but to actually make it happen, you have to act instead of talk. So all those lip services felt more like they're trying to convince themselves and the Japanese viewers like, see, this is how international we are. You should feel good about us. That being said, you can tell they're trying to integrate more English into the ceremony, from the award names to speeches, which is great and I applaud the effort. But if MAJ wants to do it properly, they should really hire professionals from English-speaking countries or even Korea. Korea has a lot of experience with hosting major music awards with massive international viewership, so perhaps the first model for MAJ to follow is Korea's Mnet Asia Music Awards. But the biggest issue they must fix is the nomination system. This year's entries were chosen based on Billboard rankings without date restrictions. As a result, we saw plenty of nominees from 10 to 20 years ago, which is quite unnatural. Automatic by Utada Hikaru shouldn't be winning awards 20 years after its release, no matter how good it is. You didn't see I Want It That Way by Backstreet Boys winning in this year's Grammys. To their credit, Billboard Japan seems to have realized the issue, songs like Idol staying at the top for way too long, which ends up blocking newer songs from getting discovered. As a countermeasure, they recently introduced a system that gradually reduces a song or album's points once it's been on the chart for too long. That way, newer releases have a better shot at climbing up, and the rankings become more interesting. Now, I can understand if MAJ included hits from the past to hype up their first ever show, but that cannot happen again next year. I don't want to see Idol nominated for Song of the Year again, even if it's still popular. Also, they seriously need to cut down the technical issues. Wrong intro videos, awkward delays. It felt amateurish at times. The subtitles also left a lot to be desired. They were often poorly translated or out of sync, even though they had a 30-minute gap between live and broadcast. So, was the first Music Awards Japan a success or a failure? I would say it's a minor success. Despite all the obvious shortcomings, I enjoyed the show and rarely felt bored. And I think there was something for everyone, especially international viewers, which is the whole point. You can definitely recognize their ambition and commitment to making the Music Awards Japan as good as possible. It's just that their execution and direction still need a bit of polishing. And again, the artist needs to show up. If the Music Awards Japan can reach the same level of influence as the biggest Japanese music shows, like Music Station and Kohaku, where even popular K-pop stars attend, then it will surely become a game changer for J-pop. This has been Cushion. See you next time.